Death is not a wall we slam into. It's a doorway we've barely begun to glimpse.
The afterlife is not discovery, it's denial. A story we tell because we fear the dark. When I argue for an afterlife, I do not mean only tradition or scripture. I mean a convergence of evidence, reason, and human experience. Anthropologists show that every culture, from the Egyptians to the Maya to modern Hindus and Christians, developed beliefs in survival after death. That universality suggests more than coincidence. You may say it is wishful thinking, but why would evolution preserve a belief that has no survival value? In fact, scholars argue that afterlife beliefs promoted cooperation. People behave more ethically if they believe actions echo beyond death. That is not trivial. It means the afterlife has shaped civilizations. Add to this medical research, the aware studies of cardiac arrest patients, where some reported structured memories while clinically dead, even recalling details of resuscitation. And then, there are the surges of brain activity at death, high-frequency gamma waves linked to memory and consciousness. If death is only nothingness, why does the brain go out with this strange coherence instead of a flat fade? These are cracks in the wall of materialism. I say, death is not a brick wall, but a doorway.
But universality is not proof. Humans universally believe lightning was thrown by gods until science explained electricity. Fear of death is universal, so naturally we invented continuations. That says more about psychology than reality. And the cooperation point cuts against you. Evolution keeps afterlife beliefs because they are useful social tools, not because they are true. As for near-death experiences, yes, patients describe tunnels, lights, and meetings. But neuroscience reproduces these with DMT or ketamine. Oxygen deprivation, carbon dioxide buildup, and neurotransmitter floods can explain the same phenomena. The aware studies you cite tested hidden targets, and so far, no patient has consistently reported them. That's crucial. The extraordinary claim is survival without brain, and we've had decades to test it. Still no positive hits. The gamma surges? They look dramatic, but we see similar bursts in animals during anesthesia and seizures. It is the brain shutting down in complex ways, not opening a gate to eternity. When systems fail, they sometimes spike before silence. That's not a mystery. It's biology.
Biology, yes, but not fully understood biology. You say the brain flickers as it dies, but why should that flicker produce structured, meaningful experiences? Patients do not report random noise. They report panoramic memories, feelings of peace, and sometimes verifiable details from outside their line of sight. Even if 90% are false or constructed, a single veridical case under controlled conditions would change the debate. And let's not ignore terminal lucidity. People with advanced dementia, silent for years, suddenly regain clear memory and speech right before death. If mind is only brain, why should clarity return as the brain continues to fail? These anomalies do not prove the soul, but they suggest that the brain is not the whole story. Think of the radio metaphor. Damage the receiver, and the signal distorts, but the signal itself may still exist. Perhaps the brain is the receiver, not the originator. That model is not disproved by your examples. In fact, it may explain why consciousness can sometimes appear larger than its damaged substrate.
The radio metaphor is seductive, but it collapses under evidence. Split brain surgery literally divides awareness into two semi-independent streams. If mind were a single external signal, splitting tissue could not create two partial selves. Yet it does. That points strongly to consciousness emerging from physical networks. Terminal lucidity? Plausible explanations exist. As neurons fail, inhibition drops, allowing brief synchronization before collapse. The last flicker of order in a dying system. No mystery needed. And you're right. A single robust, time-stamped case of veridical perception would change everything. But in decades of trials, with hidden images above operating tables, there has been no consistent hit. That silence matters. Meanwhile, all our strong correlations point the other way. Shut down frontal parietal feedback under anesthesia and consciousness disappears. Damage the hippocampus, and episodic memory vanishes. Progressive degeneration erodes personality. If consciousness were more than the brain, why would every blow to the brain carve away the mind so reliably?
Because brain and mind are entangled during life. I grant you that. Damage the piano and the music falters. But you have not proven the music originates only in the instrument. Look at cases of children with hydrocephalus, who function with as little as 5 to 10% of expected brain tissue, yet show near normal intelligence. If mind is entirely a product of tissue volume, how is that possible? Neuroscience handwaves with plasticity, but that does not fully answer it. These rare cases suggest that our assumptions about how much brain is required may be wrong. And here is where philosophy meets science. If the brain is not sufficient to explain mind in life, how can we be certain it extinguishes mind at death? Finally, justice. You dismiss it as wishful thinking, but think of it. If Hitler and a child saint both vanish equally, then morality is ultimately a human convention with no deeper weight. The afterlife secures the meaning of justice and love. Without it, are we not just building sandcastles, knowing the tide will wash them away?
The hydrocephalus cases are fascinating, but they do not break the materialist model. The brain is not a simple computer where less hardware always means less function. It is massively redundant and plastic. Neural networks can reorganize, and cognitive testing often reveals subtle deficits, even in high-functioning patients with extreme hydrocephalus. These cases show adaptation, not evidence for an immaterial mind. As for justice, yes, Hitler and a saint both die. That is hard to accept, but reality does not bend to our moral cravings. And I would argue it makes our moral responsibility heavier. If there is no afterlife, then what we do here is all that counts. That makes our courts, our activism, our compassion more urgent. Believing that cosmic justice will settle scores risks weakening our drive to act. Responsibility is ours, not heaven's.
But does your model not reduce morality to a fragile social contract, one that shifts with culture and power? Without a higher anchor, what stops morality from being just preference backed by force? Martin Luther King spoke of the arc of the moral universe bending toward justice. He was not describing mere politics, but something deeper. Justice with ultimate weight. If all dissolves into nothingness, then the arc bends nowhere. And consider, if human morality alone defines meaning, then when societies collapse, so does meaning. Is that enough for you? I say no. I say the hunger for eternal significance is not just fear but a clue. Just as thirst implies water, our yearning for permanence may point to its reality.
I think that is where we differ most. You see hunger as a clue to truth. I see hunger as a clue to psychology. We crave immortality because we evolved to fear death and love continuity. But craving is not evidence. Children long for their parents to live forever, but nature does not oblige. Morality without heaven may be fragile, but it is also authentic. If I act kindly only because God rewards me, is that real virtue? True morality is choosing good when there is no cosmic safety net. And history shows it works. Look at Scandinavia today, some of the most secular societies, yet high social trust, low crime, robust human rights. Meaning and morality can be constructed without eternity. That fragility is not weakness, it is freedom.
Yet fragility is exactly my concern. Secular societies can flourish for a time, but memory fades, monuments crumble, and even nations collapse. Without permanence, even the noblest acts are ultimately swallowed. When near-death experiencers describe light, peace, and reunion, perhaps it is not just neurology. Perhaps it is a glimpse that justice and love are not wasted. You may dismiss that as hallucination, but the convergence of reports across cultures, the moments of lucidity before death, the anomalies of consciousness, they all point in the same direction, that death is less final than you assume. For me, the afterlife is not just comfort, it is the completion of meaning.
And I return to where I began. Every strong piece of evidence still ties mind to brain. Damage memory circuits, you erase memory. Split the brain, you split awareness. Stop activity, and consciousness ceases. The anomalies you cite are fascinating, but none have survived rigorous testing. Universality of afterlife belief shows human psychology, not metaphysical truth. And the moral arc? It bends because people bend it, through courage, sacrifice, and law. Death is the end. That makes life urgent. Urgent to love now, to resist tyranny now, to create meaning now. That, to me, is not despair. It is liberation. We own our story, precisely because it ends.
Before we wrap up, a quick reminder: the scores you saw tonight weren't judged by us. They were generated by AI. That means they don't represent any absolute truth. This was just an experiment to see how artificial intelligence can drive and evaluate a debate. The real winner is for you to decide. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious, stay positive.